Gamers Ledge presents.
No, just don't let it go. I started the fight, but now I'm losing. So, will I fall again? I'm scared of heights, yet it was me who ran away.
Talking them down from the ledge. With your hosts, Dave, Matt, and Mark. Here's how it works. Every week, a new assertion. The others have to try to talk them down from the ledge. This week, warning, spoilers will be discussed in this show. Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us. It's the Furious episode 4 with the Titanic trio, the Principal, Matt.
Howdy.
The Legonator, Dave.
Good morning.
And I, your host and third participant, Mark, also known as the Marchman, also known as Balth. This week we are covering the topic of Disney buying everything. Is it good? And if you would like to extrapolate, fantastic! I can speak! If you would like to extrapolate that out to the gentrification of intellectual properties under one owner, you may do so.
Them some Scrabble words you using there.
What's this have to do with people getting older?
Suddenly it becomes a debate on euthanasia. Why are we talking about young children in
I was just trying to say. The kids in India, what?
So, the way the format of the show goes, Matt will start for 5 minutes discussing his point of view. After that, one of the two of us, Dave or myself, will have a 5-minute rebuttal session. Then the other one will follow for 5 minutes. Then there will be a 5-minute question and answer session in which Matt will be grilled within an inch of his life, because it's grilling season. And then he will close out the show with a final 2-minute last word, stating whether or not we changed his mind on the issue. The best argument of the day was. Matt, sir. Disney, our lords and masters, overlords, please do not fire or kill us. Disney buying everything. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Your 5 minutes begin one of these directions now.
All right, so Disney buying up everything. Just to summarize, if anyone's not familiar, within the last few years, it's been more than a few, I guess, Disney has been accumulating properties, and specifically the ones that are most relevant to the discussion are that of Marvel and that of Star Wars / Lucasfilm / LucasArts / Lucas everything. So those are the properties that we're primarily looking at here. And so you've got Disney, which already is Disney ABC, and they've got all the Disney properties, and they bought Pixar, so they got all the Disney Pixar properties, and then they bought Marvel, so now they got all the Marvel, and they absorbed also Marvel Pictures in that deal. So, and then also shortly, what was it, 2 years ago now? They absorbed Lucas?
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, and so then now in this era, we have had some amazing products. Now, granted, the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, started before the purchase. So we can't say that Disney is single-handedly responsible for bringing that into fruition. But that did deepen the coffers although they're still notoriously cheap over there. But that did deepen the resources and did deepen the coffers. So now that we are seeing, as the movie universe progresses, they're spending more and more money on talent, and they've got that backlog of Disney vaults, Scrooge McDuck reference, to pull out of the money bin. So is it good or is it bad? I think it's great. Personally, I think that this is a company that really understands its markets. It really understands the people that it's speaking to. I mean, look at Disney. It's been around for forever, 1954-ish. They've always been successful. They've always been profitable. Well, okay, there's probably years somewhere where they weren't, but for the most part, they've found their audience. Even when they've lost it, again, they come back and they find their audience. They find the talent. They find the way. And if you've ever been to a Disney park and you've had a bad experience, talk to me, because I've never talked to anyone who had a bad experience at a Disney park. So they've taken these properties and for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel Comics, they've continued with the Marvel Comics. Really, there wasn't much change. There were a few covers that got Disney-fied or whatever, but for the most part, the comics universe has kind of chugged along, doing its own thing. Whether you like or don't like what it is, that's kind of on Marvel itself, not on Disney. And then you've got the cinematic universe, which is obviously, we've got Age of Ultron next week, knocking it out with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Pixar, obviously, they've been rocking it with that. The new movie, Inside Out, is that what it's called? Inside Out is coming out soon. That looks great. And then you've got Star Wars. All right. So Star Wars is the new thing coming out the end of this year with the next movie, coming out with comic books. You've got the new Star Wars book, which is awesome. You got the new Vader book, which is awesome. You have the new Leia miniseries, which has been awesome so far. You've got stuff tied into, what's it called? Rebels. You've got the Rebels show, and all of this is all inclusive, including the novels that are coming out, which I've read one of so far. So we've just got all this stuff, and it's all awesome. And you've got all the resources and all the marketing and all of the power to do those things that, are they scrapping? Are they struggling? No, they're not having to do that. So it's a different type of freedom they have now to create universes that people who grew up with these universes are now creating them. And it's almost fanfic made real. So I think it's great. I personally don't see any problem with the way this has gone. Is it a little scary sometimes to think about that one company could fail and all these things could fall apart? Yeah, but you look at it, I don't see that happening with Disney. I think it's a solid company with a solid grasp of its customer base. And even if it falls away for a little while, it won't be long before they find their way back again. And I guess I'm done if I have any time left.
You have time left, but we will erase it from existence with your minute left. Dave, would you like to go first?
No.
So my 5 minutes.
He's a scavenger. He's just going to wait for the scraps that are left over.
It's called an opportunist, is what it's called. My 5 minutes goes on the clock now. Wow. So in order to prepare for this discussion, I did a little homework. The list of assets that falls under the Disney umbrella is not scary, Matt. It's downright ludicrous. Literally, we're talking about a media conglomerate. ABC, ABC Family, Disney Channel, ESPN, A&E, 14 theme parks, publishing arms, marketing arms, corporate holding divisions, land and realty divisions. This is not the Disney that Frozen Head Disney probably envisioned. He may have kind of had an inkling of it before they froze his head. But let me tell you that this is a mass global entity that is up there with any of the largest C as in corporate offenders that are out there today. The problem I have with this is that it's almost like Google. Google started out with do no evil. Disney has, yes, you're right, they have found their audience, but I think that stopped being genuine a long time ago. Star Wars is the perfect example of this. Recently we saw the new trailer, and that trailer was 100% fan service. There wasn't any plot, anything. It's just marketing made to Star Wars fans to get them excited about the movie. They have to do this. No, they have to do this because of everything that happened with the last 3 movies, and they need those consumers to come back and spend their hard-earned dollars bolstering their acquisition of Lucasfilms. Because if you look at Lucas is like, I haven't seen the trailer, don't care what's going on, ready to be surprised like anybody else. Why? Because that man checked out a long time ago. And Disney saw that it was a franchise in need of A, rebuilding, and B, ripe for acquisition. And so they did a shrewd business deal and acquired all the assets, acquired all the rights, and now they're going to do, yes, what makes fans happy, but this is the issue, is there's not really any fan service in that. It's all business. And I think Disney has become an evil empire. The very empire in Star Wars. They can't hear, I'm sure. please don't oppress us. The idea behind all of this is that Disney only buys and sells for profit. If you look at their theme parks, like you said, you'll not find anybody who's had a bad time. But at the same time, if you've ever been to Harry Potter World, the place is designed to leech all of your money at every single... They actually sell...
That's Universal.
I understand that. But they robbed it from Disney. And the same goes at the Disney theme parks. Do you know that they measure by the amount of retail per square foot that they can sell in those theme parks? And they're constantly shifting patterns of traffic flow to get the optimal amount of return per visitor attending the park. That's not putting something for the love of something out there. That's sucking the soul out of it. And personally, I think it's only a matter of time until whatever layer exists right now that says, for marketing purposes and business purposes, we need to keep these people happy. And instead, eventually, there's going to be a point where we start getting direct-to-sequel videos and things of that nature that are going to suck the soul out of the company. And even more than the business it's turned into already. Dave?
Yeah, I need a clarification on a rule before I start.
Mm-hmm.
Am I also supposed to go against Matt?
Yes, you are supposed to go against Matt.
Because I'd like to just turn it around so we gang up on you this time.
You can turn coat.
That was last episode. No. I think you fail to understand the rules of this debate, sir.
No, I understand the rules of this debate. I'm just on the wrong side of it. Okay. Here's my fears. Okay, but see, the thing is, so far, like, if we go back to, say, the Pixar acquisition, and we look at what they did. So Disney had a chance to just outright buy out Pixar. Is that what they did? No. What they did was they acquired all the talent of Pixar, and they put John Lasseter in charge of all of Disney animation. So that's kind of a move that, say, a very savvy company would make, because he was clearly had a great vision and knew how to run a successful animation studio, so they put him in charge of everything. Now, so that's a really good business move on their part, and it seems like that's been kind of their idea for acquisitions. However, things can get complacent, people can get in charge that lose sight of that. And that was Disney years ago, before Pixar came into the scene. They were in that kind of rut where they had a management team They was just kind of coasting along, and it's not like they didn't have the whole conglomerate. They still had all that stuff. This is nothing new. Disney's been building a giant house of mouse for a long time. So they had all of that, and they had some bad management in place that made some poor decisions that almost ran the company into the ground. So that's basically the big fear with anything. And we've actually seen this with Lucas in Star Wars, where it just became so big and he just kind of stopped caring. I think that's the big fear we have of everything being in one house like that. Somebody could rise to power within the organization and decide that they want to start micromanaging. So when you have all kinds of great things in one place like that, you could get somebody that, fancies himself as like, a Steve Jobs type of executive that just needs to put his stamp on everything, which would slow everything down. The guy might be great or terrible at the job, but either way, like if he's getting his hands in everything, if he doesn't completely understand everything, but decides that he's got to have his hands in there because he's the top guy, that could be a nightmare for all this kind of stuff. So yeah, on that respect, if they're not careful about that, that's going to be a huge problem. And I quote Walt Disney's actual last words in this next piece, when he said, with basically his dying breath, his last 2 words: Kurt Russell.
And see.
Those actually were his last 2 words. I always love that fact.
I missed the story on that one. So.
I don't know. Apparently Disney, right before he died, his last words was actually Kurt Russell. He was a young actor doing Disney films at the time. He was like a kid. And I guess he was predicting the greatness of Kurt Russell, which clearly Big Trouble in Little China, they live. Yeah, I mean, they live. God, I'm looking right it up. Escape from New York. They live. Wrong one. Also great, though. So, yeah.
At 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining.
Okay.
Does that
when you said end scene, I thought I was
No, I was just saying.
I was like, man, that was a quick 5 minutes. No, so the biggest fear, I think, is just the fact that everything's under, if they don't if they don't manage it properly, and they don't, like, if they continue, like, they let Marvel run with things, that's great. They're letting John Lasseter run with the animation studios, that's great. That can all change. That's the big thing that we're going to have a problem with in the future, if that does change. Or if they decide that they just, like, hand it over to they have like little fiats in the place where like everybody's just taking up their own thing. Like say J.J. Abrams takes over the Star Wars thing and doesn't ever let go of it. Like they just let him have it. And then he becomes the next Lucas to run it into the ground. And they're just like, oh, we kind of gave it to him. Like, and they stall on making decisions like that. There's a lot of things that can go wrong management-wise because it's such a big company. And that's the thing we've seen in the past a lot. I mean, you take all giant companies, and that tends to happen. I mean, you see like what happened to Microsoft over the years, how that's been like a mess. Like Sony, because they became too big, and like their divisions don't even talk to each other. Yeah, I mean, on the upside, there's lots of great stuff. Like when you go to the parks, you can see Star Wars and Disney and everything.
Time.
Oh. Mario?
That wasn't Mario.
Zelda drum and bass. Video game super fan. Dave blocked everyone.
No, I didn't hear what was going on there. I just heard, like, music.
So, this begins our 5 minutes of cross-examination. And that begins now. Dave, you take the first question.
First question. So obviously, you're just a fanboy. And you're like, oh, everything's great. Nothing bad could happen. Do you think that they're putting in any kind of checks and balances at this time to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen? That they make sure that the quality stays high? Because it kind of seems like they're not doing anything like that right now. Do you think they're being too hands-off? And is that a good strategy to go forward with? Or is that something that they need to rope in?
Well, as I understand, I'm not an expert on the structure and how they're set up, but as I understand it, each of the studios, if you will, thinking of movies, for example, the Disney studios, the Lucas studios, and the Marvel studios, all have their own central control system that loosely report back to corporate Disney. I don't know how loosely that is. I've always been a fan of centralized control, decentralized execution, which is really kind of what it looks like they have going on here. They've got the corporate that's sitting up there saying, you know, as long as you make money and as long as you're doing stuff that we're in line with, knock yourself out. And they've got the people currently in the leadership of those areas that are doing that. Could it change? Yeah, it could always change. I mean, you have companies that were great 1 minute and fall apart the next. It always can change. But right now, I think they've got the focus at the right level. They've got the focus of the individuals who are working on that theme. So whether it's Disney movies or it's Star Wars movies or it's Marvel movies or it's whatever, they've got the focus on that and what can they do the best to make that the best part of the corporate structure that it can be. So I think it's possible, but the structure they've got right now, I think, is actually optimal for what they're trying to do.
Matt, Marvel is owned wholly by Disney at this point, and that's not just the Marvel.
Not just the movies, the comics,
right,
everything.
Everything.
Right. Animation,
and
everything.
For many years now, it's been widely known that Marvel pays its unestablished artists and writers next to nothing. And Disney is making billions of dollars on Marvel Studios productions, yet allows this culture of extortion to continue. How do you justify this as being a good thing from the Disney parent corporation?
I guess well, again, decentralized execution. Again,
but ultimately, it is their responsibility, is it not?
It is their responsibility. Well, it is, you know, if someone were going to sue, yeah, they could sue Disney. I don't even know if they could do that because of how all the legal sub-corporations are set up. But
is that your legal response?
Yeah, that's I'll do a Foggy here. I honestly don't know enough legally about how that's all set up. You know, companies within companies within companies gets really confusing very fast for me. So I just kind of go.
We're not talking about legally.
No.
We're talking about, is it right?
It wasn't right when Marvel was doing it themselves, and it's not right while they're doing it under Disney. It isn't any different. And honestly, I don't know. I don't. You hear about it from Marvel, but I don't know how DC. Obviously, Image and some other companies are very big on their independent, you know, owner idea comics. DC, I don't know how they are. I honestly don't know. They could be great. They could be horrible. They could be the same. I have no idea. Not that it makes it any better, but yeah, it's kind of a cruddy kind of a cruddy, you know, process or whatever you want to call it, but as long as the culture allows for it, it's going to continue.
Dave, you should ask a question because he's just going to sidestep mine, apparently.
What? Okay, what was the question then? I thought I answered it.
How can you justify it?
I personally, as long as they, as a consumer, as long as they keep on putting out good product, that's really all ultimately I care about.
That's what he wanted to hear.
I thought that's what he wanted to hear. That's exactly.
Dave, you have the final question. If you want to follow up on that, feel free.
The follow up is, I see nothing.
I hear nothing.
Very interesting, but stupid.
If you don't, that is our time. If you don't have a question, that's fine. But if you do, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually don't think I have anything else. I mean, I think we laid out all the concerns of, you know, what happens. I mean, here's the thing, you know, kind of like Mark said, if something blows up real bad, I mean, we could almost lose everything. I mean, just you take, for instance, Marvel years ago when they were about to go bankrupt.
Is this your question?
No, I'm just
He
saying.
likes making questions in the form of a statement. Yeah,
It's
he
not a
did it
question.
to
It's
you
just
last
kind of like a final statement. Just like
You don't get
I
a
still
final
think
He's doing his closing arguments.
Yeah, it's Matt's turn. Matt, you have 2 minutes for your closing argument.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, I'll start out with the best argument that I've laid out that does give me the most. It wasn't unique. I've thought of this before, but it is the most pressing one. Is the leadership aspect? The aspect of right now the leadership is in a position where it's working, but what happens when that changes? Because ultimately it's going to eventually change. That is a big concern. Barring that, I mean, you can't control that. You can try to mitigate it, but you can't do anything about it. I mean, ultimately, I've said eventually the Marvel movies are going to start sucking. It's going to happen. So at some point, it's just history says it's going to happen.
say something like that.
So I guess it's not preventable, right? I mean, it wasn't preventable when Marvel was its own individual entity. It's not preventable when it's owned by Disney. Will it find its way back? I think it has a better chance finding its way back under Disney than it would have on its own. I think on its own, it very well could have folded and just been done. I find the argument about the artist and talent thing irrelevant because it's irrespective of Disney. They were doing it before Disney. They'll be doing it after Disney. So as far as whether it makes it a bad thing that it's under Disney, it's irrelevant to the argument. Honestly, I really still feel like right now at this point in time in the environment it's in, we have young, talented individuals who are, well, not all young, but we have talented individuals who are being hired on, people who are taking pay cuts to work on these projects because, especially for the Marvel movies, they are not paying premium dollar, except of RGJ at the moment, for most of their talent. They are underpaying the average, the Hollywood average. So these people are in it because they want to do it. And I think that's a good strategy. I mean, is that my time?
Yeah, but go ahead and finish your talk.
Okay, I think that's a good strategy because you give them enough that they're comfortable, or they can it's a living wage, right? Most of us would kill to get what they're getting, but at the same time they have to have some flesh in the game, so to speak, right? So, do I still have to give whether I change my mind, or is that a separate thing?
Nope, that's now.
That's next. Okay. For what we're getting and where we are right now, I cannot say it's a bad thing. I just cannot say it's a bad thing. If we were getting any indication that we're getting crappy product or that there was not, it is still in their best interest. Yes, they are a business. They are a corporation. They want to make as much mother trucking money as they can. And right now they're doing it by making quality product. That's how you do business.
All right.
Like, drop.
That's going to do it for this episode of Talking Them Down from the Ledge. Sadly, Matt jumped to his death. And join us next week when we discuss the topic, are geeks being taken advantage of by corporations? If you like the show, please do click like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Also, do check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/gamersledge. Our Twitter is @gamersledge, facebook.com/gamersledge, and of course visit the website gamersledge.com. Until next week, and we'll have our closing dissemination after the closing right here. But until next week, game on.
Game on.
Bottom line is they're a giant corporation. They can't be trusted because eventually they're going to screw up just in order to make money off us. That's the big thing he's got to worry about, and he's being far too trusting.
I think there were some really good points brought up by both sides today. The Mark and Dave, they had an interesting challenge of trying to take this and turn it. Yeah, there are downsides. I think we all know there are downsides. But at the same time, WB's got all the money that they're throwing at all of this big name talent, and still seem to be presenting that they do not understand their fan base. They do not understand the product that they're trying to make, and they do not understand how to present it in a way that is attractive to people for their movies. Now, TV shows is a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother story, but that's not where they're throwing their big dollars and their big talent and their big money. They're throwing it in their movies, and they just don't seem to get it. So yeah, are they chintzing a little bit and not paying what is the standard for a big blockbuster Hollywood movie? Yeah, they're not. Oh, they're starting to now. They're starting to pay more and more as the cinematic universe goes on longer and longer. But like I said, I think that is a positive thing. I think it keeps them hungry, so to speak. You can't do it indefinitely, but at least through phases 1 and phase 2, not a bad tactic. Ultimately, the business thing is a concern, but I think ultimately, as fans, we're just getting really great product right now, and as long as that can continue, and there isn't outright exploitation. I mean, if it got to the point where it's something illegal, then yeah, okay, we got a problem. But I need to shut up now, so I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Artists, actors, and writers, you are irrelevant sweatshop workers in Matt's eyes, and get back to work!